Hello and welcome to Good Morning UK Have Your Say, a Force for Good's mid-morning show coming to you live from our nerve centre here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow, with me, your host, Alistair McConaughey. Welcome to the show, welcome to all the viewers on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter and on TikTok. We'll be here for the next hour with our 46th show of the year, and we have recuperated from our marathon effort on Saturday when we had our 10-hour union telethon, which began at 12:30 and ended at 10:30 at night. And Debbie asks, have you recovered from Saturday? Yes, we have. We had a relaxing Sunday, and what a great show it was. We had 8 guests, and we had a lot of people coming in throughout the day, dropping in, saying hello, commenting, and so on. And a really productive day with some amazing people on the show. Everybody stood out, and a big thanks to all of the guests on the day, but especially to the viewers as well, who made it all possible. So thanks very much for that. What are your thoughts this morning on the latest from the Nicola Sturgeon? Because apparently she addressed the nation. She addressed the nation, and the nation comprehendeth her not. That was yesterday apparently, but since we don't have a television, thankfully we did not see it, but we heard what she had to say, and it seems somewhat of an overreaction. But send us what your thoughts are on that. Basically what she said, now what this is Nicola Sturgeon says, she's making laws again about how many people you can have at your family gatherings, because that's something that she really likes to get involved in, telling us about how social mixing to no more than 3 households. But she didn't want people to cancel Christmas. She says she doesn't want to cancel Christmas, but I get the impression there's quite a lot of those folk, and Sturgeon's one of them, who actually would like to cancel Christmas. Do you ever get that feeling? If they could actually get rid of the whole Christmas Day celebrations and that whole period of time, they probably would. And it's almost like that's a second agenda that's playing out there for many of them also. They actually want to just end this whole period of time at the end of the year, the whole Christmas thing. They just want to ditch it. I get that impression, some of these politicians, they'd be quite happy to do that. I mean, if that wasn't the case, why would they be making all these rules about how many people you can get in your household? It's very strange times that we're living in. Of course, we've said this a zillion times, but it really is that the government can tell you how many people are allowed, or even recommend to you how many people are allowed in your own house. It really is. It is really something astonishing, and the best way that we can really deal with it is, to the extent that we can, to ignore it. There'll always be some people who want to go along with those sorts of things, but we really need to try our best just to ignore the diktats of the politicians and put them to one side and not let them govern our particular lives. Try to live our own lives as much as we can outside the guidelines of what the politicians tell us to do. Especially at these times of year, especially at family times of year, especially at Christmas and things like that. We don't want the state intervening in our lives in that way. So, folks, please do share this if you're on TikTok. Please do share this program, and please follow us on TikTok as well. Ian says, good morning. Is Resign Sturgeon still trending? Well, it was trending yesterday on Twitter. I noticed that. Kenny says, Sturgeon slagged off the UK for not giving her more money. Then she heard there was money available, although there are gaps from the money given before. She wants to cancel Christmas by stealth. Well, something that we always say with Sturgeon is, if you give her money, she will take what you give her without thanks. She will bank it, and then she will act like she never received it. And if she does acknowledge it at all, she will say that it wasn't enough, or that it was hers all along. That's the way that she deals with money that falls into her lap. Okay, eternally ungrateful. Eternally ungrateful. That's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with the Scottish separatist movement, epitomised by Nicola Sturgeon. And Richard, of course, points out, he goes, we don't know what's up with Sturgeon and Johnston. For how many more variants will this continue? Just ignore them. Well, do you know what? Talking about variants, somebody made this point on Twitter yesterday. There was the Delta variant and there's the Omicron variant. And if you put these two words together, an anagram, an exact anagram of Delta and Omicron is media control. Isn't that weird? An exact anagram of the Delta and Omicron variants. An exact anagram of Delta and Omicron is media control. I don't know if that's by accident or design, but it's certainly fascinating that that should be the case. And goodness me, we do live under a situation of, well, we've always lived under the domination and control of the media to the extent that we're not aware of it, but once we become aware of the way that the media can try to influence us, then we can escape from it in that sense. But oh my, the amount of messaging that you get is incredible. I saw an unusual video yesterday on Twitter of a line, it might have been in London or somewhere like that, a line of young people queuing for their third you-know-what. And they were all the same age, and they were all the same type of young person. There was no middle-aged people, there was no old people. It was all an exact age group. They looked like maybe 21 to 23. Exactly every single person on the line was that age group. And how has that happened? How that has happened is that they have been specifically targeted via their mobile phone with particular messages to their particular age group. Very possibly even their particular area of town, their particular interests, to specifically target those people to go along. The messages have been honed particularly at them. And I see it myself. I get messages coming in on various social media platforms from government agencies, and they're all honed precisely to my age demographic. And that's how clever the system is at this sort of thing right now. So believe me, there's really powerful psychological interests at work here. And Laura Dodsworth, in her book State of Fear, she coined the term nudge units. And that's really what we've got, these nudge units filled with psychologists and human behaviour analysts. They know the exact kind of messages to hone down to people, to get them on their emotions, to get them on their interests, to get them on things that they want to continue to do, and find an exact way of getting a message which is going to influence them into a particular form of behaviour. And that's how good, how practiced these people are at what is essentially a dark art, a black art. But when you can see it happening, then you can defend yourself from it. P. Whistle says, at the beginning of all of this, I was happy to go along to help out, but my patience has since worn thin. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Many people in your exact point of, had that exact point of view as well. And now they are at the point, well, how long is this going to continue? And the way it's going at the moment, it's not going to stop until more people actually stop going along with it. So long as people keep queuing up, then they'll bring in a fourth one, and then a fifth one, then a sixth one. And every winter, there will be a new variant. And how do I know that? I know that because every winter there is the common cold, and there is a new variant of the common cold every year. There's several usually new coronaviruses every year, which hitherto we simply understood as the common cold. And guess what? The common cold is very infectious. And virtually everybody will catch a dose of the common cold every winter. For some of us, it will just simply be an irritation for a week. Some of us might be in bed for 2 or 3 days, but this is just the way that we have been dealing with things for years and decades and centuries. And now what they've decided to do is they've decided, for reasons best known to themselves, to weaponize the common cold and make it something that we've suddenly got to be fearful of. Because remember, when Sturgeon talks about how highly infectious Omicron is, she's just talking about how highly infectious a common cold is. Common colds are highly infectious, but they don't actually cause much problem, except, of course, for particular demographics such as the very elderly, who are very frail, elderly and frail, or other people who have comorbidities that get complicated by the flu and pneumonia. But these people have always suffered, unfortunately, at this time of year, and guess what? They always will. Okay? You don't shut down society for it. You don't panic all over the place for it. It's really quite remarkable what's going on. But I do have faith that common sense ultimately will prevail. But at the moment, it seems that the whole country is caught under the grip of some kind of mass psychosis. And of course, Saltness Monster points out the rising number of children who are getting depressed and failing in school, and that is another thing as well. You know, I noticed that the EIS, which is a vile, evil teachers union, I'm talking about the people who run the EIS, absolutely evil people, and they wanted to close down schools yesterday, but amazingly, Sturgeon actually stood up to them and said, no, the schools will stay open. But the EIS leadership will close down education forever if they could actually get away with it. I'm talking, of course, about the leaders of the EIS, not necessarily the members, but the leaders of that particular union are absolutely beyond the pale, and they will just close down education for your children. But thankfully, at least Sturgeon stood up to them and hasn't closed the schools yet. But look out for the EIS pushing to close the schools in the new year after the Christmas holidays. Look out for that. That will be the next thing. And so, of course, children are confused and unhappy, and some of them will be getting depressed, like we're all getting depressed in some ways these days. Sydney says, Dr. Clive wrote an excellent piece in the Daily Telegraph yesterday stating that the booster push amongst the young is not the best plan. Well, there's no reason in our belief for any young person to have any kind of jag whatsoever for something that's like the common cold. Ibrox Park again points out, just take your vitamin D and vitamin C, zinc and magnesium. That's a very good way about doing it. Adam says, do we have today's the national paper that we can laugh at? We have yesterday's. We have yesterday's, where the First Minister is to speak to the nation on TV as new curbs loom. The hilarious thing about this, right, is that the National now is all sad. It's all sad because they think that if these Omicron and COVID things keep going on, there's not going to be another referendum in 2023. It might have to be delayed to 2025. And so they're all upset about that. Yet they are the ones, this paper is the one that is pushing, the fear, that's pushing all of this, all the scare stories. It's at the front of pushing all what we regard as completely unnecessary panic. And then they complain that the panic that they have created is going to be such that they're not actually going to have their referendum in 2023 and it might be delayed to 2025. How ironic that they can't even see that. They're the ones who have caused the panic, which will, according to them, prevent there being another referendum in 2023. But at the end of the day, who knows what tomorrow brings, right? And we don't even know who's going to be in power in 2023, because that's one of the things in politics. You can never be certain. You can never be certain what's going to happen day to day. And sometimes we think that it's all simple, it's all straightforward. But things can turn on a dime. They can turn on a dime, and suddenly the British government changes or the leadership changes, and suddenly you get people coming in who want to have a second referendum, and suddenly, before you know it, it's happening. So we as an organisation at A Force for Good never rest at all. We're always preparing for the worst case scenario. We're always ready for that. And when those of you who watched our 10-hour union telethon will have heard us talk about what we achieved this year and also some of our plans for next year. And one of the things that we're definitely going to be doing is, if we can raise the cash, that is, producing an activist's manual. That is a manual, a small manual, be like the wee book but slightly bigger, that will be able to give people an immediate rundown on how best to make the case for the United Kingdom and how best to answer the frequently heard questions and the frequently heard objections that we're always noticing from the Scottish nationalists. So in order, that is, to give ammunition to activists if we were ever called upon again to fight a second referendum, we need to have the activist material there for people on a plate all ready to go. And that's what we're using this time to put together. And a lot of that hinges on the success this Christmas of our Yule Britannia Christmas crowdfunder. And we'll put the link up there to it. It's got a little over £1,000 in the kitty at the moment. We're going to need at least 7,000, ideally the full whack of 15k if we can make it, in order to do the things that we want to do next year. Because we do have a team here. We have a very professional team behind the scenes that's been with us for years. We're all committed. We're all tight. We're all strong for the cause. So we are got a great team. We've got great supporters here, and it's a really good outfit. Okay, so if you can see a way to helping us at this time with our crowdfunder, please do check it out. And what I need to do right now is put up the scrolling banner along the bottom there. That's the address: crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2022. Please do drop something into the kitty there. It will be most valued. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pawnflake says, bring back the Empire. The Panda says, will your team be having a Christmas party this year? We are hoping to have a union social next year, but it's going to depend upon the state of play. I mean, is hospitality even going to exist next year? The way that the Scottish administration is going on, it's like they actually want to destroy hospitality, by which I mean bars and restaurants. They want to just close them down. They certainly want to stop people going to them. It's incredible, right? This is Christmas time. This is the season that you should be getting people in there. This is the season for fun and joy. It's not the season for shutting down these places in these towns and cities. It's a crying shame, and it's more than a shame. It's an outrage. It's an absolute outrage what all the politicians are doing throughout the United Kingdom. An outrage at this time of year doing that, shutting down and making life difficult for pubs and clubs and encouraging panic so that what happens is Christmas parties are getting cancelled. That's appalling. It's appalling that politicians do that. Utterly appalling. Adam says, Ibrox says, get rid of these 3 talking shops. They're all clowns and circuses. Adam says, if a leadership contest were to go ahead, would you vote for Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss? I think we'll keep our powder dry on that particular question, Adam, but it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. So, yes, let me ask you, let me just tell you what happened on this day, 15th of December. You know, I was doing a lot of research and I couldn't really find very much that had happened on 15th of December since the world's begun. I'm sure there's things have happened, but from a British perspective, I couldn't really find much. If you know what's happened on the 15th of December, please do tell me. I could only find a couple of things, basically, that were, which were kind of tangentially related. On this day, 15th of December in 1906, the Great Northern Piccadilly and Brompton Railway opened between Hammersmith and Finsbury Park, and today it's better known as the Piccadilly line on the London Underground. So today in 1906, the Piccadilly line opened. And isn't the London Underground really one of the 7 wonders of the world? It really is amazing. It's an amazing construction. I'm always fascinated by it whenever I go there. It's just like, it's amazing how they built this and how they continue to extend the lines as well. It's really extraordinary. Really extraordinary. There was a good program on that a few years ago when they were building the new Queen Elizabeth line. Amazing. Anyway, what else happened? I'm reading, by the way, from the London Book of Days, which is in our office here. We've also got a Glasgow Book of Days. As well. But in 1927, and I find this fascinating. The Church of England, being an established church, needed approval from Parliament for any substantial changes to its common book of prayer. But on this day, Parliament rejected a proposed new book of common prayer because it, quote, leaned too far towards Rome, close quote, and so it was returned for further revision. That's amazing. That's as recently as 1927, the British Parliament is saying, is looking at the Book of Common Prayer and actually saying, no, this isn't good enough because it leans too much towards Romanism. That's remarkable. That wouldn't happen today, of course. Goodness me, you couldn't even say a prayer in Parliament probably these days. But that was in 1927 when Parliament sent back the Common Book of Prayer for a revamp, for a revision. Crikey. So that's a couple of things on this day in British history. I'll ask a question on one of those things in a minute or so. For our pens, for a pack of 3 pens with Big Ben attached. Yes, it does show back then that it was a Christian state and nation prior to World War II, and then it kind of changed, didn't it, after that? Kenny gives us a point of view here on Sturgeon. She has single-handedly stuffed up the oil and gas industry by frightening Shell from their 30% Cambo stake. Now the main shareholder has pulled out. She also looked smug pressing the button on the destruction of Longannet. And she's slagged off Maggie Thatcher for less. Indeed, we spoke about that at our Union Telethon with Will Podmore, the author of Capability Britain. And as Kenny says there, Nicola Sturgeon actually got herself filmed pressing the button to destroy the chimney stack, the final remaining chimney stack at the Longannet power station, which has been closed for at least 5 years now, but which was a coal-fired power station and which was powerful enough to heat and provide electricity for 2 million homes. 2 million homes from one power station. Incredible. But for some reason that was regarded as too efficient, so they had to destroy it all and get something less efficient in its place, which they still haven't done yet, by the way. So she was absolutely gloating about that as well, and she said it was for the sake of the planet, which I found a very interesting excuse. For the sake of the planet, let's destroy everything for the sake of the planet. Margaret Thatcher missed a trick. She should simply have said, "Oh, we're closing all these coal mines for the sake of the planet," and everybody would have been, "Oh, okay then, that's fine. Yeah, for the sake of the planet. You can get away with anything for the sake of the planet, it seems. Oh gosh. And Mark puts out a hopeful message there. He says, when it comes to things like curbing our freedoms, we the British are probably the hardest to impose things like that because we like our freedom. And that's generally correct. And I think that there is a hardcore in Britain that will rise to stop this. Many people who might hitherto have gone along or believed many of it up to now will actually come round to realising, no, this is gone too far now. I see more people questioning what's going on, and at the end of the day we are going to have to lead the world again, just as we did in the past. The British people are going to have to lead the world out of this chaos that's being imposed upon us by our politicians. I do have faith and do trust that we will prevail and we will survive. And we, the British, as Mark says there, the British bulldog will bite again, if that's the correct analogy. So yeah, well said, Mark. Well said. So a question that I'm going to ask for this is, on this day in 1906, which line of the Underground was opened? You can give its modern day name. One of the lines of the London Underground was opened on this day in 1906. Send your answers, please, into contact@aforceforgood.uk, and the first person on the buzzer there will be the one who gets 3 of these pens, dinky little Union Jack pens, heading your way, along with a Christmas card giving our best greetings to you, wishing you a glorious British Christmas. These are unique to A Force for Good, and they show all the British monarchs from the Glorious Revolution, beginning with Mary there, and William. And if you're a Union supporter, that is, if you're giving us a monthly donation, then you can claim a free pack of these, a free pack of 5. These can come your way. All you need to do is drop drop your request to contact at aforceforgood.uk. Tell us you're a union supporter, and we will get a free pack of 5 of these in the post to you. Other than that, if you want to buy them, they are £4 for a pack of 5, and we'll put the link up there to our glorious British Christmas cards. And it's very educational as well, because we list the names and the period of time that the monarchs were king or queen for. Really pleased with that Christmas card, by the way. Really pleased with that. Good. So, looking at some comments here on TikTok. Hello to Eternally Raised Eyebrow. 5,000-year-old union. Absolutely. I'm glad that's catching on, by the way, because that's definitely the core of our British story. We trace our union right back to when social and cultural unions started to come together, which is essentially right back to when the first human habitation has been recorded, which is in Scarabray. Scarabray is the first, the origin of the first united culture of Britain, thousands of years before the United Kingdom itself came into being. It was Neil Oliver who was able to carbon date life on the Ness of Brodgar to around 3500 BC. And that's when we begin our shared social and cultural story. Long before people ever thought in terms of England, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Britain, or the United Kingdom. And then through social and cultural unions, regal unions, political unions, to the point where we are not so much a union of nations, we're a nation of unions. That's what we like to say. Adam says, do you want the United Kingdom to become a republic or stay a monarchy? Well, obviously we're going to be staying a monarchy, that's for absolutely sure. You can't imagine Britain without a monarchy. It is the United Kingdom, after all. Adam wonders, will we get our own show on maybe GB News, the Alistair McConaughey show, or the Good Morning UK Have Your Say show? Well, we await the call. We await the call, Adam, and that would be good, wouldn't it? We could shift a few copies of the wee book if we could get on to GB News or something like that. We could probably also boost our crowdfunder as well if we could get it mentioned on a national broadcast. But we do what we can do, and we love doing what we're doing right now. And anybody who can help out at the crowdfunder, please check it out at crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG2022. Yes. Raymond says, hello from Mosley, Newton Abbey. Stop and end the Northern Irish Protocol. I feel you. I know what you're saying. Absolutely. It's a real problem, that one, isn't it? That's a pity. Aye. Do you know there? Mark says, "What has the union? Has the union done anything special?" That's quite a good way for me to start to talk now about an article that was written. I don't know if it's in today's Daily Telegraph or if it was in yesterday's Daily Telegraph, but it was certainly published online yesterday by Jordan Peterson, who is the American academic, philosopher, and writer. And he was talking about how he loves the United Kingdom. And we will put this, we'll put it up on a Facebook page later today. We'll put the whole article up. But for now, we'll just read a bit of it. It's kind of long. It's a long article, and he really only gets to the nub of it when he gets to the last few paragraphs. But he's titled it. It's titled "Why I Love Great Britain," and it's the freedoms Britain granted the world are the most precious gift of all. We must preserve them. And I think some people don't fully appreciate that much of what we take for granted, whether parliamentary democracy or the very concept of freedom of speech, which itself is a really radical proposal, have come from the British worldview and have been spread worldwide through Britain's outreach to the world. And they're still with us today. But like all of these precious things, they can be under attack and they can be threatened because they can be easily lost. They can be easily lost because precious freedoms are often like a glass vase, that beautiful sitting there, but it can be so easily broken if we fail to maintain it. But what Peterson does here in this essay is he really does make a case, a real expression of his love for the United Kingdom and for the freedoms which we have hitherto created and protected, and long may that continue. He says here that it was when he was in the Palace of Westminster, which is to say the Houses of Parliament, he stopped for a moment at the precise centre of the heart of that remarkable building and lifted my eyes upward directly under the immense chandelier suspended under the beautiful and ornate domed octagonal ceiling. If I could have asked for something more to befall me at that moment, it would have been the music of the divine to accompany that vision. I like this bit. He goes, perhaps Bach's great third Brandenburg Concerto, although I would have settled for the British national anthem, God Save the Queen. And he speaks about that place where he was standing as the very place where, I like this bit as well, where the practical redemption of a great people is continually undertaken, governed by the transcendent and necessary principle of the unalienable right to express the logos as conscience, soul, and rationality itself dictate. That might need a bit of thought, that one. Necessary principle of the unalienable right to express the logos as conscience, soul, and rationality itself dictate. Okay, there's wisdom in there. That lobby enshrined in that palace, that cardinal castle of the word, has been a very light unto the world, concretized and embodied there simultaneously in stone, tradition, and living action. It is the very place where the sovereign voice of the people meets the voice of its representatives, to be carried forth into its eventual incarnation, into the body of laws we separately and jointly accept, adopt, and act out. Crying out loud. He's getting the words in there, isn't he? Well, he loves the Palace of Westminster, and he loves where it is the place where the sovereign voice of the people meet the voice of its representatives. And that's the ideal, isn't it? That's the aspiration. Too often, of course, it falls short, like all things created. It falls short often, but that's the ideal, and it's really nice that he's sought to put that into words. And then he finishes here, but the people of Great Britain have granted the world a gift whose power stands in permanent opposition to our most appalling proclivities as individuals and societies. That gift is the political expression of the sanctification of the word. Freedom in speech, imagination, and thought. Freedom to engage in the very process that builds and rebuilds habitable order itself from the chaos that eternally surrounds us. And that freedom is expressed in many ways, small and great, in the British Isles, in the wit of its people, in the effectiveness of its institutions, in the beauty of its art and literature, in the political and psychological presumptions that guide private discourse and public conception and action. And that is most particularly why I love Great Britain. Fantastic, Jordan. Well said. Well said. And thank you for those words. And so I'm going to put those words aside, print them out here, and whenever somebody on TikTok says, "What's so great about Britain?" I can read them that, and they will be older and wiser as a consequence. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question, Mark. Hope that answered your question. J TikTok says, what about the Alien Act of 1705? Well, gosh, I can talk to you about that, but I don't know if I've got enough time. What I will say about that is it all came about because both Scotland and England wanted a Protestant successor to Queen Anne. And the English Parliament passed an act which settled on Sophie, the Electress of Hanover. And the English wanted the Scottish Parliament to settle on Sophie, the Electress of Hanover also. However, Scots being Scots, while that was probably our choice, we didn't want to be told what to do. And so we said, well, we will decide ourselves what Protestant is the successor, but it might not be Sophie, the Electress of Hanover. And that panicked the English, and they weren't very happy about that. And so they passed the Alien Act, which compromised trade between Scotland and England. But circumstances eventually resolved themselves because Queen Anne died, but Sophie, the Electress of Hanover, died before Queen Anne died. So it actually passed to, let me get this right. Was it Sophie's younger brother, or anyway, it passed to George I, and that was the beginning of the Georgist reign in Britain. And also, of course, things had moved politically and economically, and you had the Parliamentary Union in 1707, which resolved everything anyway for the better, thankfully, and brought us all into one united internal economic market, which was the best for us all at the time. So I don't put too much stake in the Alien Act. It was a thing of its day, but it got resolved in the. Well, folks, it just remains for me to say, do get your wee book in, please, at Christmas time. You know, we can get these sent off to you. They're extremely valuable. You might also want to get our new magazine, Do More Together. If you buy if you buy Do More Together and a wee book together, then you'll get a discount. We'll put up the link to that. And Also still available are our amazing Union Jack Hessian shopping bags. There you go. Take that down to the supermarket and everybody will be saying, where did you get that amazing bag? Okay, really really strong, with powerful imagery on it there. Look at that, eh? Everybody wants one of those. Only a few left now. Only a few left. And we're not going to be broadcasting next Wednesday or the Wednesday after. So the next 2 Wednesdays we will not be broadcasting. Obviously we'll be broadcasting every day as usual on our social media channels, but this particular program won't be available until the new year, when we'll be back in the new year. Yes, Bill says it's the perfect Christmas gift. I'll absolutely say, isn't it just? Isn't it just? Please do check out our shop. Lots of good stuff on our shop. It's a forceforgood.uk/shop-1. So check out our stuff there. And of course, as always, it's really critical that we get this crowdfunder going, that we get what we need on it. So please, folks, if you're not usually donating, or if you're not donating in any other way, please take this opportunity at Christmas time to drop something to us. For it's Christmas time and everybody's having fun, so here's to the union. It's only just begun. And so please do chip in to our crowdfunder, because we do need some help at this time, and our efforts next year do actually hinge upon how much we raise during the crowdfunder. So if you can help us, please do. Now, folks, thank you very much for that. We'll be back in the new year with our program. It just remains for me to say thank you to everybody who's watching, thank you to everybody who commented, and God bless the United Kingdom, and God save the Queen. See you next time. Okay, folks.